Hey guys, are you thinking about applying for a job in a recording studio? So I've worked in a handful of studios throughout my time, and I'll put a link in the description to my work and experience page on my website in case you want to know where I've worked before and, just to prove myself or whatever. But anyway, today I figured I'd sit down to chat with you guys about some tips and advice that might be useful when you're applying for a job in a studio. But first, I want to talk a bit about the state of the industry. So there are still successful studios out there that hire full-time employees, and if you found one that will take you, then that's amazing. I think most of these studios are around New York, LA, or Nashville here in the US, but it does seem like after the bubble burst in the industry throughout the early 2000s, fewer and fewer studios are surviving, or at least fewer and fewer are making the big bucks. And I think discussing the economics of this is a topic for another video, but I think there are various reasons for that. But because of this, what I want to tell you is that you might want to be open to less conventional work situations. For example, a lot of the studios here in San Diego don't have full-time engineers. Instead, what they do is once you earn the privilege of booking time in the studio by proving that you know what you're doing or having someone that they trust vouch for you so that they know that basically you're not going to break their gear, then they'll let you book time with them. And they quote you an hourly rate for studio time that does not include engineer time. So then, for example, if a studio says to me, okay, Cato, you can book time here and it's going to be $40 an hour for you, then I'll add on my hourly rate of about $20 an hour, and I'll charge the client $60 an hour. So with this deal, you're often then responsible for collecting the money from your client, taking out your cut, and then giving the studio the rest. So it's different than a conventional job at a studio since you work as a contractor essentially. So you don't get sick time or a legit paycheck or any of that stuff. So that can be kind of a bummer, but you also get control of your own schedule. So you don't have to come into the studio when you don't have anything booked, which is really nice. So if you're like me, you can also become friendly with multiple studios in town, and you can give your clients options for where to go, which is also nice. But then again, you're also responsible for the money. So if you get a shitty client that doesn't pay up, you're often stuck footing the bill for their studio time, since you really don't want to get a bad reputation with your studios. So there's a lot more risk this way. And you also have to hustle to get your own work since no one is bringing you any work. But a lot of times studios that you've gotten the green light to work in, if they like you, they might recommend you as an engineer to potential clients that come their way. Anyway, my point with all this is to say that full-time, more traditional jobs in studios are more and more rare nowadays. So if you're going to go out job hunting for one, I really recommend being more open to less traditional arrangements. Okay, so you're going to go out and job hunt at studios. What else do you need to know? Well, I think that the most important thing is to think about who you know. So almost every single gig that I've ever gotten has been through some sort of word of mouth. So for example, a couple of the studios in town that I've worked with, I originally was brought there as an assistant for an engineer that was bringing clients there. I got to know the people that ran the studios and eventually ended up working with them as an engineer. Another engineer that I briefly assisted was a featured engineer on Pro Studio Live, and he mentioned me to the Pro Studio Live guys, and then they in turn introduced me to the guys that ran the studio that was their home base at the time. Years ago, I worked on a music industry startup, and the woman who was building that startup was also the manager of a studio downtown. So she introduced me to the engineer and the owner there, and that's how I got my first in with recording studios in town. Even before that, I was the A1 audio engineer for a live venue downtown. So I got that job because I did sound at the La Jolla Playhouse, and the manager of the sound department sent me to deliver some rental gear, I think, to that venue, and he told me that he was sending me so that I could meet the guys at the venue, and they offered me a job shortly after. Anyway, I could keep going, but you get the idea. It seems like such a huge part of getting a job can be from who you know and who recommends you to who. So think about who you know that might be able to put in a good word for you, and maybe mention to them that you're interested in that kind of work. And just remember that this is also an argument for not burning bridges when you can help it and being helpful and volunteering for work that's not exactly what you want to do, but maybe just adjacent to what you want to do. I've continued or chosen to do work that isn't exactly what I want to do a bunch of times. And that's because I knew it was a step in the right direction for where I wanted to be. It got my foot in the door with the right groups and the right people. So yeah, don't undervalue the human element here. Another thing that I wanted to mention is to build up your portfolio. So many engineers didn't go to college for engineering. They learned on the job. So where or what you studied doesn't seem to have as much weight in the audio industry as it does in other industries. So for example, in any given studio that I'm working in, I'm usually one of the only weirdos that went to a 4-year college studying anything audio engineering related. And there's so much that you learn on the job in this field that you won't learn in school. So showing that you're willing to put in the time and do the work and create some actual end products is going to go further than where you went to school, especially if your stuff in your portfolio sounds great. And yeah, nowadays there are a bunch of short-term audio degree programs cranking out engineers. So I think the number of engineers with some sort of education in the field is going to rise as we go. But I mean, I've helped some of these students coming straight out of these shorter programs, so either run in trade schools or out of studios, and sometimes I'm shocked at what they don't know. I once had to explain to a graduate from one of these programs what a send is. I'm not even kidding. Then I had to explain to them why taking notes on your routing for a session with a dozen plus microphones is so important. I was shocked that someone could come out of any sort of audio engineering program and not understand such basic concepts. And I'm sure I'm not the only professional that's noticed this sort of pattern. I can't speak for other professionals or the people potentially hiring you, but I know if I was in charge of hiring at a studio, I would weigh a really good portfolio a lot heavier than one of those short-term degrees. So if you have both, then that's great, and the degrees can be a great way to stay focused and create a cool portfolio. But if someone graduates one of those programs and doesn't come with a portfolio and just expects to be hired because of their certificate, I would be a lot less likely to hire them than someone with a good portfolio, or someone that demonstrates that they've taught themselves a lot of the basics, or someone that's already hustled to some degree. Someone that's already hustled is a lot more likely to be able to hack it and thrive in the current industry than someone that just paid for a piece of paper and expected a job from that. And that's coming from someone that paid for one of the most expensive pieces of paper you can get in this country and went crazy getting 3 degrees. So I loved higher education and I definitely recommend it. I don't think you should expect it by itself to be your golden ticket to a job as soon as you get out. It's a really competitive industry. So I think I'm about out of time for this video, so that's going to be it for now. I hope you guys liked this video, and please let me know what you think in the comments below. For today's question, I want to know, what advice do you give to people starting out in the industry? Please leave your answers in the comments below. So thanks guys. As usual, if you like this video, please tell your friends about my channel, watch my other videos, or check out my Patreon. I'll be coming out with new videos every other Wednesday, and thanks for watching. Okay. Oh yeah, and if you're like the one girl that watches this channel, don't wear heels to a job interview. You're in a studio, heels make noise. Let's see, I was at a show a couple nights ago and I got like a scrape on my chin. It's like somewhere around here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but fucked my face up. Fucked my face up. It's like all scraped. It's like a little bit of foundation over it, so it's not as bad as it actually looks by itself, but I think you can still see it. It's kind of red, scraped. It bled. Oh, and please don't complain about vocal fry. Besides the fact that it's kind of sexist to complain about, like I screamed a lot at that concert the other night and I'm really struggling here. So please, 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 please. It'll be better next time. Maybe. It might be better next time. It might not. I don't know. That's the wonder of this.